Okay, good morning. Thanks everyone for coming and welcome. For those of you that don't know, my name's Max and I'm the Key Accounts Manager for CSL. CSL's background is in supplying critical connectivity. We've been doing that since 1996 and we've now got over 1 million connections, and we're working with manufacturers of digital dispersed alarms to provide connectivity in the digital world. So the challenge that we've been dealing with recently, rapid hospital discharge isn't new. It's always been one of the key sort of requirements for telecare. But COVID-19 has meant that that's increased, as well as the requirement for beds to be available for COVID-19 patients. There's also been the increased risk for vulnerable people of contracting COVID-19 whilst in hospital. As well as that, there was a need for service providers to minimise their own contact with these vulnerable people in case obviously they might be carrying the virus. And uncertainty about what infrastructure was in the home. People weren't able to go and carry out preliminary visits anymore. And all of this was around an increasing sort of culture of knowing that analogue devices will have a limited lifespan and in some instances will also have limited performance. So the solution to that challenge was is digital ready dispersed alarms. It's not something that's new, it's already tried and tested. They're used over here increasingly at the moment, but also previously have been used successfully in Sweden, Norway, Germany and elsewhere. The three key sort of factors of digital dispersed alarms that people found were flexibility, reliability and security. So if we start with flexibility, the use of a roaming SIM means there's no longer a need to check whether a telephone line is available. Not being reliant on the telephone line also means that the unit can be installed in the best location for the end user. So you're no longer reliant on where the telephone line is situated in the house. The device can be installed in the right place for that person. The alarms, as Maureen mentioned just a moment ago, sort of hybrid alarms at the moment, so they can operate in analog mode or in digital mode, and that means that they can be installed now even if your monitoring centre hasn't yet had that upgrade to be digital ready. The portals as well, so easy programming and reprogramming via the web portals made for really COVID friendly installs. So not only did it mean that installs were quick and service providers didn't have to spend too much time in vulnerable people's homes with social distancing and stuff like that, but also in extreme circumstances people were actually able to post these alarms out for self-install by vulnerable residents or family members. Reliability. So CSL are providing manufacturers with unsteered roaming machine-to-machine SIMs. What that basically means is that the SIM will connect to any network in the UK without any bias. We've also worked with manufacturers to put roaming algorithms into these devices. What that means is that the device will always connect to the best network available. There's sort of a common misconception that the strongest network is always best. There are many reasons why the strongest network might not actually be the best network to be connected to. And what the algorithm will do is it will test the networks and select the best network based on performance. Also in terms of reliability, we're no longer in sort of the analog world where we hope that they work, but we don't really know. The heartbeats that go through to the portals and stuff like that will help with that, testing the network and selecting the best network, but also will mean that monitoring centres can be secure in the knowledge that these alarms are online working. And that brings us to security. So this diagram here shows the background that sits behind the network that we put in. CSL's background in fire and security means that we were ready for this high security digital world. We use dedicated private telecare APNs for these devices with fixed links to the networks through then private VPNs to the monitoring centre. This means that we're providing an end-to-end private network for all of that digital traffic, and means that the traffic from the device all the way through to the monitoring centre doesn't connect over the open internet. I appreciate this is quite a complicated slide, but the sort of point of this is that isn't what you need to worry about. That's our job. all that you need to know is that end to end, it's private, it's secure, and that traffic isn't going over the open internet. All of this has led to great outcomes for vulnerable people and service providers. Service providers were able to move vulnerable people home where they were less at risk of contracting COVID-19. It also meant the pressure on hospitals was reduced. Stuff like bed blocking was decreased. All of the units that we used were tried and tested elsewhere already. They weren't sort of prototype units or anything like that, and they were all future-proofed. So they would work today, like I said, sometimes in analog mode, and also will work in the future past 2025. That meant that you didn't have to buy these units twice. The vulnerable people, they were able to return home where they felt safer but also happier, which I think is key really. And the remote programming meant that you could have a step down from hospital in stages. You could change the care level depending on what the people would need at different stages. And also meant that the vulnerable people stayed connected whilst they were shielding. So although they were isolated in some ways, the service provider was always a button's press away.